So you've done that presentation, it's gone really well, and then you get this question that comes out of nowhere, and you're wondering, what? What do I do now? Hi, everyone. My name is Rashini, and I am from the Change Business, and I'm here to answer question number two, a question that we get asked very often when it comes to presentations. And that question is, how do I handle difficult questions, especially during presentations? Well, it really depends on the context and it really depends on the type of presentation you're giving. But I'm going to just give you a few pointers from the context of what we can do before the presentation, during the presentation, and after the presentation as well. So, in terms of before the presentation, this comes from our presenting intelligence workshops, where we basically ask all our participants to do your homework, do your homework, do your homework when it comes to your audience. Because if you know that your audience is for you, then the type of questions you're going to get are pretty much for your information type of questions, or they need it for their information. So it's about you giving facts and figures and things that you should already know about, right? But what about those difficult questions? Well, even those you can kind of predict ahead of time. Now, how do you do that? Well, think about the presentation you're making and how that's going to evoke certain emotions from your audience. So if they're going to be for you, on your side, and they are in agreement with a lot of what you're saying, then chances are the difficult questions are not going to come up. But if they are not very keen on you or the topic, or maybe the changes that they're going to have to make as a result of your presentation, then you might get some questions that are more challenging. And of course, if you have to present to people who are much more senior, then who are they? What are the sort of questions they like to ask? Is it around numbers? Is it around trends? Is it around, what have you thought through in terms of solutions? So these are things that you can predict ahead of time. Now, what about during the presentation? Well, in our Think on Our Feet workshop, or rather Think on Your Feet workshop, we do share some tips and techniques on what you can do. Now, one very important tip is how you can buy time. Because very often when we get asked a question, we don't quite process the question and we just start speaking and then it's too late to kind of take back what we want to say, right? So maybe being able to pause and breathe and then think about the answer you want to give. Or it could be that you just want to buy yourself a little bit of time. Maybe ask for the question to be repeated, or maybe ask for an example of what exactly they mean. Now, of course, you can't use this technique too often. Otherwise, it might kind of get in the way of the presentation and people kind of see through it if you use it too often, right? But it could be of help some of the time. Now, what about after the presentation? Now, with the Change Business, we do a lot of work with people from various organizations and from many different backgrounds. And one of the things I loved about a participant of ours from the banking industry, I beg your pardon, wasn't from the banking industry. She was from the pharmaceutical industry. And she said that one of the things that she does is she has a database of questions. So every time she gets some really tough questions, she kind of puts it in this document. I'm thinking it's a document, but it could be elsewhere. And she uses it not only for herself to remind herself of some of the questions that crop up, but it's really useful when she's having to train up newbies that join her team. So I hope that some of these tips are going to be really helpful and useful to you. So think about what you can do before the presentation, homework around your audience. Think about what you can do in the moment. Perhaps it could be to buy some time, some things that you can do. And finally, perhaps after the presentation, do a little bit of reflection, maybe create some sort of a database where you can collect the type of questions that you find tough. And, by knowing some of these questions or getting to know some of these questions and thinking through some of those answers, then when those moments come, you won't feel so lost. Right. So I hope that you've enjoyed listening to this video, and do remember that we've still got 3 more days of answering your questions. So do join us back here to hear what question number 3 is going to be about. See ya.